Hello and warm welcome, dear audience, to New Generation Women, and I'm Jeanine van Seenus. A few days ago, I went to my dance training, and we are usually a bunch of healthy women between 40 and 50 and do rarely talk about health. But this time, my dancing friend came up to me and said, Gosh, I'm so tired. My little one gets into school, and I'm not good with all the changes and preparations that come with it. The worst part is to wake up during the night. I sleep in fast, but wake up in the middle of the night and cannot go back to sleep because of all the thoughts running through my mind. Another dance friend joined us and said, I have exactly the same problem. I woke up the last nights and thought to myself, just be quiet for a few minutes. I could not believe that I could not manage to stop thinking for even a few seconds. Not only fits my upcoming guest perfectly into my series Conscious Man Who Give Hope, he also is the expert in creating guided meditations, sleep and relaxation music for adults and children. I discovered him on YouTube. He has over 1.5 million subscribers. He's the founder of Relax Me Online Australia. His guided sleep meditations are also used in prisons. A best-selling co-author with Jack Canfield of the book Success Mastery, and actor and comedian Russel Brand said about him. Try some of Jason's amazing meditation techniques. Allow his gentle Australian brain alchemist to dabble in your semi-conscious brain. A typical Russell Brand statement. And finally, hello and warm welcome, early morning welcome to Australia, Jason Stephenson.
Hello, Jeanine. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure
Yes,
to
thank
be
you
here.
so much for being here. Well, how late is it here? Is it a quarter past 11 p.m.? So it's a quarter past 7?
Yes, correct.
Yes, you're an early person, aren't you?
Oh, yes. I don't mind getting up early.
I yes, it's good. A good question for the start. I remember when I did a talk show or when I was working for broadcasting industry, and I had my radio show was at 8, and I had to get up at 6 or 5 sometimes. And
Mm.
after a year, I was really done. Now, living in Germany, getting up is like you're ambitious, you're loyal, you're really good in work. Getting up late is you're lazy, you're creative, you're an artist, and you have to laugh, but I really had to struggle with that. When I went on a job, the worst thing I had to ask for in my mind was, can I please come in at 10? I cannot make it before. Is this something like there is a rhythm for people that, like you, some people get up early and that's their rhythm, and some people get up late? Or can you get used to get to sleep early and wake up
Yeah,
early?
that's a good question. I know that biologically there are rhythms for people, for different people. I think there's about 4 rhythms, if I'm not mistaken. And, one's a really early morning riser where that is their best time to do work. Then you've got one that's, maybe lunchtime, that's peak, then another one afternoon, and then another one, of course, then there's people that can't sleep and have trouble sleeping. But yeah, so it's really normal. I think the interesting thing with that is if only we could work at our peak times.
Yes,
If you,
yes.
for instance, are best at to get up at 10 a.m. to work from 10 till 7 or 8, the world would be much more productive and happier. That's for
That's so
sure.
good. I have it recorded now because I had so much struggle, and after a while I just didn't care anymore. I would just always make fun about it. And I remember that he was very particular about getting up early. And we had both, a meeting in Berlin, and he texted me. It was, I think, a quarter past 10. And I said to him, or texted back, why we are not actually flying together to Berlin, because we both came from Munich. And I said to him, oh, I see, because it's a quarter past 10, I just got up. And I had to laugh so hard about it. I really joke about it. And at a large company, I trained them. So I was so proud of myself. I trained them that they would say, please, Jeanine, can you be there at 9? We really know. We promise we buy cookies for you. There's a really strong, good cookie. And I said, That's an exception. I don't do this very often, but I'll be there at 9, and people would just look at me because they get up at 5 and start at 6. But I would make it accustomed and say, "People, guys, please listen to you." And
Mm,
now it's more my asset that I help people to radically self-care, not to be narcissistic and selfish, but
mm,
really be productive. So I
mm.
like that you said this. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're most welcome. I know for me, it's very I can start my day at 5 a.m. and by
Yes.
5:30 I'm really into it. But then let me tell you, by about even 2 p.m., I'm starting to come down and times when I have to think at 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., my brain is starting to shut down at that time. So
I do understand now. Now that I got more peace with myself or in peace, now I don't care anymore. Before, of course, I got defensive. But
yeah.
now that I allow people to sleep their own times, if I wouldn't have gone to salsa training at 8 or at 7, I would have not made it now at 11. But because I have this break and doing something with my body, and usually dancing works really well, my
Mm.
mind is working until 1 or 2 right now, and I then go to bed. But I also always take care that I do have, no matter how tired I am, I drag myself to dancing. I never feel like into it. I always feel way too tired. But the minute when the music starts, and especially after warm up, that's when my body and my brain starts working again. Is this something also that you recommend to people? Do work out, or do you use something that is creatively bring you back into a different state so that you have your energy?
Yeah, I think what you're doing right now, with that dancing and getting the breath flowing and getting I know there's qigong that
Yes.
has some great and energy techniques that you can simply do on the spot in your own home that can actually get that blood going and get yourself moving again. Um, but yeah, and of course, meditation. But however, many people fall asleep during meditation, even if you're
Mhm.
not trying to fall asleep. So
Yes.
um, sometimes that's better to do that if you're wanting to do that. It's to do an open eye meditation, so you don't fall asleep.
And then you don't lay down. And I don't do
Yeah,
fall asleep very easily, but people say this. And then I always say, then just keep sitting. And they don't like this. Just like, well, then you sit if you sleep in. But do
yes.
people fall, do people fall asleep when they sit also?
Oh yes, and I've got to admit, I remember
You do
doing.
it too.
Oh yes, I've done some meditation retreats where they would actually come with a big stick with a thing that would clap. It would close together, and they would whack you on the back if you started to fall asleep.
Yes.
So
Is that really? I thought this is just in Japan possible or Asia possible, where there are monasteries and they
oh,
want to train the monks that they really stay awake. Is this still happening?
yeah, well, this was a like a 10-day monastic retreat, and it was strict
I see.
monastic conditions,
Yes.
and no talking and meditation for hours on end, and I found it difficult,
Do
wasn't it?
you really? But it's so funny because I never found it difficult. And just lately, I feel like sometimes I see myself falling almost asleep. And I'm so happy. Like sometimes, you shouldn't do this, but sometimes I'm seeing movies during the night. And just the feeling of falling asleep during a movie, I find this so healthy because I never was able to do this. And I think, yeah, you fall asleep in a movie. Great. You didn't see the whole movie.
That's great, honestly. I remember my younger years. I would go into a movie theater, and I'm guaranteeing by about
To
10
sleep.
minutes into it, I would be asleep. And I remember my girlfriend at the time, and she'd say,
Yes,
"You
that's
better
horrible.
not go to sleep in this movie. You better not go to sleep." And I'd say, "No, I won't. I'm going to stay awake." 5 minutes into it, bang, gone. So,
Oh, oh, poor her. That's horrible. I know this also, and it's really horrible. You're waking up. You say, "No, you really try 1.5 hours." Yes, I really do try, and then they are just off and go, and that's what they are. But the actually the first question I wanted to ask is this phenomena about you go to bed or you do have an intense and challenging situation, and you learn to cope with those situations during the day. But then when you go to sleep, and you're even peaceful when you go to sleep, but suddenly you wake up during the night.
Mm,
And for me, I know that the rage of thoughts, the sadness or whatever comes, it feels like double. I mean,
mm,
you feel like it's double strong, 10 times stronger than you have it during the day.
mm,
And I tried everything. And I heard it also from other people. I literally have to drag myself out of bed. Either I write down something or I do something. Why is that happening?
mm. Good question. That what I think is because we finally get to slow down. We finally
Mhm.
stop. And that is when we stop, we become fully aware of how many thoughts that we're having. And we don't recognize this during the day because we're just go, 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 go. So
Mm,
as soon as we stop, that opportunity to just stop, the mind doesn't stop because it's on almost on autopilot, and it's been going
mm,
all day, and it will continue to go all night. And this is where where meditation comes into play. But what you said then about that you getting up and then you have to write, that is a so much better idea than struggling with and getting angry with yourself for not
yes,
sleeping. That just defeats the purpose. If you've got that problem, get up,
yes.
go and write something, go and read a book for a while. I think the actual fighting against not going to
Mm.
sleep compounds it even more.
I have those passages, and I remember that I had one passage, and that was nasty. I wouldn't get my work done during the day because I was so tired. So I would get up out of bed, and what you said, I really made peace. I didn't judge. I didn't struggle. I put on my computer, and I would just work 1 or 2 hours, and then I would go back to sleep. The minute I started judging myself, the minute I started fighting it,
Mm.
that's when it got better.
Mm.
And the minute I started to do the work that I felt I will be not able to do during the day, that really helped. Of course, writing a book or writing your thoughts out, or emptying your trash. What I sometimes would say that would help. But I could also, and I like this so much, what you say that what we suppress or push away during the day will
Mm.
somehow come back. And I also see sometimes men in my generation who are more into, we push emotions away. We don't want to deal with them. We do go on autopilot. We
Mm.
do go onto workaholic mode. That's much easier. But I always see when they have sleepless nights or the passages come in, that's when they get broken open and transparent. And that's when they start listening. And I always say, I don't trust your personality at times, but I do trust your soul, because your soul is ringing the bell during the night. And that's when something is happening. So is it, or different ask, do you also observe that it's not always a bad thing to sleep, not be able to sleep, but sometimes it's like a cleansing, a hello, let's just tune in sign for people?
Mm. Mm. I think that's a good point there. I think if we that's the whole idea about, so we don't try and push things away and push things down. And because sometimes it can actually, if we tune into that and stop fighting that and allow those thoughts to come up, we may actually discover there might be something that's it's telling us, um, that's a higher consciousness or something like that.
Mm,
um, but I know that they've done studies with this, the idea of suppressing of thoughts. And so, and what they've found out, they did this study, Harvard did this study where they were actually doing meditation, and they were told to not think of, it was a white polar bear they used. So
mm.
they said, you can think of anything, but don't think of a white polar bear.
I see the white polar bear right away.
Absolutely. And so
Yes.
what happened? They thought of the white polar bear, and so much so that some of them were neurotic and they couldn't get the white polar bear out of their head. So the more we try and suppress the thoughts, the greater they will
Mm,
just we're compounding again and again. Whereas if we can just, I like how John Kabat-Zinn says, he put out the welcome mat for the thoughts, like roll out that red carpet and
Mm.
allow them to be, just witness them. And you can go deep into that, and then they will pass by in their own time. The problem is though, when we get angry, frustrated, and try and push them away, and that just makes things worse.
Yes, there was a wonderful Instagram post, and it basically was exactly saying, you cannot change the running thoughts, but you can change the relationship with them.
Beautiful.
And I found this so beautiful, and you either accept them or you change them. And while I was learning all the wonderful new things years ago about meditation and about, calming your mind and going into stillness, connecting with the present moment, and sometimes I would call it having a love affair with your present moment, that really would help a stillness. Just have a love affair with right now, with the always eternal now. And I remember that I had a new phase professionally, and I had a hard time to meditate because my head was so full with all the new stuff going around, and I wasn't able to go back to my usual quietness, peaceful meditation. And I got so angry. I felt like shit, I lost it, and why doesn't it happening? And then I read that post, and I don't know how it's with you. I mean, you are an expert in meditation. Do you still have sometimes, are there passages when it's for you hard to meditate, to become quiet, or is it always working?
Oh my goodness. Oh, can I tell you, in all honesty, all the time. But
Yes.
I've just learned, and I'm getting better and better. I've learned to accept those thoughts now, and sometimes, I can drift completely off, but then
Mm.
just gently call myself back and go, okay. But it's really kind of nice, to gently call yourself back, to not be harsh on yourself and go, wow, you were away for a bit then. Let's just go back to it now. Go back to breathing. And it's a really beautiful thing. And I think that's the meditation itself. It's when when you get called away, that you can be compassionate with yourself. That's what I think meditation, can teach you, can teach you compassion, rather than getting frustrated and angry. There's so many other things outside of
Mm.
ourselves that frustrate us. We don't need to
Yes.
do it ourselves.
Yeah, I like what you say. No, you're so right. And that makes it so much easier. I think so many teachers in former times gave you the impression that it's a no thought zone. And if you don't reach that no thought zone, you must be a complete idiot. And then everybody is, talking about it. And how you reframe this to create a space of kindness or a loving space with yourself
Mm,
makes it so much easier. As I said, I would sometimes say I have a love affair with the present moment, and I'm just very kind with myself. And um, I would almost look forward to it all the time because it felt more like having a pause and be gentle with myself against, versus pushing myself through the day or do it through the to dos. And
mm.
it's a very nice approach of meditation.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah, I
yes,
think
sorry.
I think what we have to what we have to be careful of is, when we go into the meditation practice, to go in, with that open mind of having no expectations of, whether our mind is we will reach a state of peace, or whether we will be our mind will be chattery or anything. Going with absolutely no expectation and simply sit and
Mm.
allow, moment by moment, whatever unfolds, just allow it to come up, and with a gentleness and acceptance of whatever presents itself. You are in that moment, and that is perfectly okay right there and then.
It's wonderful how you say this. I mean, your meditations have this imprint of your voice, and it is so heartfelt when you talk. So that makes it so much more approachable. And the approach that you have is also something that I like so much. It's this gentleness, this space of gentleness. As you said, there are so much other things happening outside. So
Mm,
creating that space for us and creating the space for others, It was a very sweet little story, but it talks about setting the frame. And this is also what you do in your meditations. And I think this is really something that's always 50%. We had a really wonderful dinner with a CEO, and that meeting was very dear to me, not just because he's a great human, but also of the subject that we wanted to talk about.
Mhm.
And I was recommended in a foreign city, different restaurants, different bars, but it didn't serve the purpose. I really wanted to set a stage. It needed to feel right, heartwarming, not overly expensive, but with style. So I would run in the city, having not a lot of time left, because the last restaurant I said no, I canceled. So I had barely 2 hours that I needed to find something. And I dropped into a wine bar, and I felt everything felt like yes. And then not far away was an Asian restaurant, so I could combine it. And then the CEO entered into the wine bar, and he looked at us and said, "Hey guys, I've never seen such a beautiful place. What a nice place you chose." And my colleague said, "Well, this is Jeanine's story. Ask her what she did the last 2 hours." And I told him, also went to the Asian restaurant and said hello to the waiters and to the cook and introduced them to the CEO when he came in. But it's what I would do with every person when it's dear to me, to set the stage and to have that approach of loving kindness and gentleness. And I think this is what makes you so famous and successful with your meditations. You are really setting a stage for people to enter into a space where you mean it and where it comes from your heart and where you do live heart-led success.
Mhm.
Um, and it's not commercial. It is something that is really deeply felt. And
Mhm.
hopefully, and it will more expand, because I love that. I love to see when people really mean it. I love when they have lots of success with
Thank you.
something that is so, yes, that always makes me very emotional, because in this whole jungle of people trying to sell everything, you have to find your way and your current, and finding you is a treasure. So that
Oh,
I
that's
just wanted to
beautiful.
say that.
Thank you so much. I mean, before I do my meditations now, at the beginning, I must admit, 5 years ago, I was just sort of doing it, and I was doing it more to try and get somewhere. Interestingly enough, that's how I
Yes,
began. And funny enough, life has a way of working with you. And
yes.
I now, before I do a meditation, I set an intention, and my intention is just to help. Just please give me this, allow this channel to pass through me to get to help one person, just one. If I can just help one person, then that's beautiful. So I get out of my way when I do these meditations, because I want, you know, God or life force or whatever you call that to flow
Mm.
through me to help others on the other side, whoever listens to that. So
And that is truly felt. No, that's really truly felt. And I always think that's the whole, in quote, secret. And it's secret's not, but it's the hardest and it's the most beautiful, to get ourselves out of the way. And
mm,
when I do sometimes my work in businesses, I never want to be there actually. I just hated it. I just need to pay bills. I always wanted to do something else. Um, but the most fun part was, I was never feeling I needed to prove myself. I need to achieve something. Didn't want to be there in the first place, so I could play. And that playing was for me the success, which is really funny. But I achieved, in quotes, the most amazing stuff while I didn't want to achieve anything, because I didn't want to be there in the first place. And then it turned around that I said, okay, how can I make it work? So what you said, and I love the humbleness. It's not about we want to be Oprah, we want to, be Obama. It's about how can I help one person? How can I be there for one person?
mm,
And then I'm contributing and not being there
yeah,
for thousands. And that is also what makes Eckhart Tolle so sweet and charming in his way.
uh,
He's very humble when he approaches his things. It's for him also about the craft that he's serving, and not the commercial side of it. Although he asks for a lot of money, but still there is a craft in his approach.
absolutely. I love his work. I love it deep.
Yes.
And when he speaks, and
Uh,
and even the pauses in between.
Yes.
It's just there's so much to be said within that space of when he doesn't speak. It's
Yes.
it's really
Absolutely.
beautiful stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. I so agree. I admit I just purchased his online course, Conscious Meditation. If you guys didn't get it, it's really worth it. And it's not that expensive. So I don't know if you know it,
Oh,
Jason, but it's so good. And exactly, my girlfriend said, thank God he has a script. And I said, thank God he does so many pauses because I can really own and digest what he's saying. I don't have to run with a paper all the time and make notes and stop and rewind. I just can have it next to making breakfast, brushing my teeth. It's
wow.
so calming. I really recommend it. And it's
Okay.
really simple and in yes, there's a beauty in simplicity. And this is there's a kind of a same soul or spirit that you guys have. Um, and when you see people who are more advanced and people who are very connected to the craft or to to the flow of creativity that emerges, there is a common essence of gentleness, of humbleness, of transparency. And I always feel the more people are waking up or transforming in their journey, the gentler they become. Um, and I
Mm.
love that. It's because it's so touching and it's in all that noise that we do have. And this is part of the problem that we don't sleep. There is this extreme island of calm that you also radiate.
Oh wow. Yeah. Thank you. I feel
So,
like my life is getting, as you said, every day more and more gentle when I'm learning to accept more and more of my emotions and not blaming things externally. And so it's been a beautiful journey. And I mean, would you believe, 20 years ago in my one of my jobs, I was sent to an anger management course because I control my
no.
anger. And you know, that's where I was at back then. And
Wow.
thank goodness, thank goodness.
Yes, I wanted to talk about the turning point. I wrote down some keywords. You were bullied as a kid from peers and also teachers,
Mm,
dropped out of university because you're free spirit and thinker. You wanted to be actor and singer.
mm,
It was too much of a challenge to also provide. Then drug and alcohol abuse. You would never think listening to you.
mm.
Then you were criticized for your monotone voice, which became, now your real asset. And despite flight fright, you were a flight attendant for Virgin Atlantic while you were launching your online business. You worked for many years with disabled people. You became burnt out and needed new direction. How many years did you go through what we call the dark night of the soul or this completely off, being
Mm.
off, out of balance, out of tune? How long did it go?
I would probably say 10 years.
Hmm.
10 years I was kind of between probably 30 and 40. Yeah, and even earlier than that, I was just lost and but definitely started with drug and alcohol. Probably drugs, especially in my 30s, early 30s. Um, and can I talk about something that triggered
Yes,
that? I had
totally.
I had a spiritual experience when I was in my early 20s. Um, have I got time to explain this just quickly?
Yes, please,
Yeah.
please. The stage
Um,
is all yours.
well,
I'm
what happened
curious.
was here I was commuting from Wollongong to Sydney on a train trip, and it was an hour and a half journey each way. And on this particular day, I decided to get off midway at this station where there was nothing, a train station where there was nothing. It was just trees and forest. And I know that there was a Royal National Park up the top. And I said to my friends, I turned to my friends and said, look, I'm getting off. I'm not going to work today. And they said, what do you mean? What are you doing not going to work? Where are you going? There's nothing here. And I said, I don't know. I have to get off now. Getting off the train. And anyway, so here I am. I got off the train. I had my long black pants on for work and my long white sleeve shirt, shiny shoes, backpack. And I began to scramble up this hill, slipping
Mm,
and sliding, and still no idea of what I was doing, but just going with it. And anyway, I got to the top and I come to this rocky outcrop that had, I could see the ocean on one side and then was just surrounded by trees and a valley on the other side. And there was a beach way down below. And I sat there, and it was the first time that I consciously caught myself breathing, that I'd stopped and was just breathing, and I could hear my breathing. And it was just like, whoa. And then something more happened. It was this amazing feeling of peace vibrating through me. And it was more than peace. It was kind of like, and when I speak about this now, I always get goosebumps. It was like this
Mm.
energy of love, and like the entire universe was pulsing through me within those moments. And there's no words that I can explain it with. And it lasted for 30 seconds or a minute or more. And it was just out of this world ecstasy. And
Wow.
I got up and, I remember just looking around, just wanting to yell out. And did anyone else feel that? Like, what was that? Like, I had
Wow.
no idea. So I got on the train to go back home and told my parents. And I ended up, after that, I realized that I wasn't following my dreams and I was going to begin to do work for myself then. But here's the thing, that energy, that feeling, what happened was then later in my 30s, when I took my first ecstasy tablet,
Mm.
that feeling come back again. But of course, it was drug induced.
Mm.
And it was that same feeling. It was like, oh my goodness. So this is what this tablet does to me. And that was the pathway to take more and more of it, because it just sent me right off track. And it was almost like I thought it was some sort of a shortcut I thought it was okay, to have that
Mm.
feeling again. And so that's when, yeah, that's how it sort of all happened. I think from that one awakening experience, if you like, to
Mm.
trying to, I just had a touch of it again, and then trying to get that more often. That's where the problem was.
It's with everything. I mean, if you can really do everything with that, if you have this touch of this freedom or this peace, and in a human, in a human form, you always try to go back to that. And if it can be work, it can be sex, it can be.
Mhm.
For me, it was competitive ice dancing when I was very young, and I
Mhm.
also know bullying and being bullied and this not being really a good student or pupil, and then dance training and ice dancing did to me, and I could feel that spark, or you can call it God or life force or whatever, but I could feel something underneath. And then I did it over and over again, and that, of course, the more you want it and the more it's not there. I think you cannot chase it. It's the chasing keeps you further away. And for you, it was then for a passage of time drugs, and for
Mhm.
others, it's work. But actually, it's the same drug. It's a drug in which we try to get something that we will never on this path will get.
Mhm.
What was the turning point for you to hit bottom and to spiral into a different direction?
The turning point for me was getting very, very ill, and contracting HIV.
Mm.
And there was that was it for me. That was the absolute hitting rock bottom. And it was quite a dark year initially, and lots of fear and anxiety and depression. Um, and then it was around that time when The Secret began to come out, and someone put me in touch with that movie. They said, watch this. And I began to watch that, and I'd known about affirmations and then meditation, but it just sort of was a far removed from me. But I decided that it seemed like every time I went into the doctor's surgeries for blood tests and everything, everyone was so serious, and it was serious, but it made me feel more and more dark and heavier. And So I decided to change the initials of HIV to here in vitality.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the reason I say that is because I remember being down the beach at the time, and I caught myself alive again. Like, here I am alive. And I'm thinking, why am I thinking that it's the end of the world? Like, the sun was coming up. It was beautiful. And I just thought, I'm living. I'm here right now in vitality. And bang, that was the point of change for me, that I thought, no way. They can, everyone can tell me what they want. The doctors can tell me, the bloods are going down. And because I used to follow them, and I think, oh no, I'm getting worse. I'm getting worse. It was a terrible time. I allowed the doctors to dictate to me how I would feel.
Hmm.
I would go in there feeling great and thinking, because I changed my diet, I changed everything, and I would feel so alive. And then I would come out of there a wreck because they told me, "What are you doing? Your blood counts are much lower." And oh my goodness, it was all because of
Yes.
one marker, that I allowed that to dictate how I would feel. And then no more. I made that decision. No more are they doing that. I'm not accepting that anymore.
I so understand it. I just shared the story because I had a very serious bike accident, and that was just taking me off right off my just starting TV career. And I know that I was in so much pain, and my face was destroyed, and my face miraculous came back, luckily. But I was in so much pain. I could have bought a Porsche for all the money I would spend on healing, on medication, on doctors, and my to-do list on the to-dos of how I can get healthy would be so horrible long that there was a point that I really, and literally today, I still am very, very cautious how much I take of supplements, or I do eat healthy, but I don't make it, my religion.
Mhm.
And I do socialize. I do eat sometimes something I wouldn't eat if it's very socializing. And I do say yes, and I do bless it. But I said at one point, you have to stop that. You are just going from one misery to the next. You're not going to get healthy. You're taking it way too serious. You need to breathe in joy. And it was literally dance training that brought me way out of all the trouble. And I do really believe that what you said at the beach, and how do you translate it again? Here,
Yeah, here in vitality.
here in
Live in
vitality.
vitality. Yeah.
How awesome. And as dancing is a way of vitality, or being in joy. And I
Yes.
always say, if there is no joy in my life, there's no pos. I called myself, I'm such a great joy finder, because also in my dark times, I would literally always look for joy after a while. And if times are intense, I always like look for joy. And if they are very intense with lots of work, and it took me a while to really get through that. But I would really, humor is my medicine. At one point, I get so humorous, and people think I'm so happy. And I said, no, I'm not happy at the moment. I need to be very humorous to be, that's my bridge to be happy again. I literally do bring in a lot of humor. Um, and that helps me still. So very intense, or, lots of work, or planes that don't go, or whatever facing, that really literally helps me. Do you have something that you say apart from meditation that's your medicine, your
Oh,
unconventional medicine?
well, currently at the moment, I live here on my own, but with my 19-year-old dog. And
Wow.
we still go for 2 walks a day, morning and afternoon. And he's just actually sitting beside me right now, waking up. And he's
Oh,
my,
wow.
he's a lot of joy. And, and I have beautiful friends and family. And I love that. I love spending time with my mum and dad still, and my family and my friends. And as you said, laughing.
Hmm.
That's it is the best medicine. They say that, and it is. It truly is. You can just forget everything in that moment, and your joy. You've found
Yes,
that.
absolutely. And you're so right. And I remember when my stepdad left this year, and everybody would say to me, the way you should be very sweet and gentle with your mom. And my mom and I are very close. And I said, yes, I am gentle. And I'm also I bring her back to life. And one thing that's so strange, but that's just one thing of many little things. Her name is Heidi. She hates to be called Heidi. She's 81 years old. She hates to be, asked how old she is. And and I always will drag her everywhere where I am. And we have those car to goes. You just look for an app. Where's the next car? It's always a different car. So I would go with her in her new city where she moved, and we would always sit in the next car. And I would say, I don't know how this works. Just hang in there. We will find this out, And then I would sit in your car, and I would always come with her to meditation, to yoga, to dance. And I would say very out loud, this is Heidi. She's 81 years old, and this is my mom. And then everybody would say, Heidi, 81 years old. Wow. And we would never think that. And, because everybody would just rush to her, and they would be so happy that she looks so young, and would shake her hand. And Heidi, do you want to sit with us? She had to laugh. This is really what I did as a mantra almost. And she said, promise me to not call me Heidi. No, no, no. And the last time when we went to this particular restaurant with the CEO, she said, don't call me, and I didn't sleep. I don't want to see him. I'm hiding. I'm waiting for you. And we take the train back to our home because I was visiting her. And I said to him, she's not coming. And he said, oh, no. But I have shown her a photo because we show, it comes from India. So we showed stuff from our families. And suddenly he said, because she was hiding behind a tree. And then he said out in the restaurant, looking out of the window, is this your mom? And I said, yes, let's wave to her. She said, no, I'm not coming in. And then she came in, and I said again, this is Heidi, my 81-year-old mom. Hey, this is my mom. And he thanked in an email for the wonderful evening. And he said, a special bonus was your mom. And it does make her,
Oh, that's
she
beautiful.
cannot but laugh and smile. And I think, yeah, maybe I have different ways and approaches to make her come back to life after, her
Yeah,
partner left. But
yeah,
it definitely is something that I can say it brings back life force. And it's very unconventional, but it brings a lot of laughter in her life.
yeah. That's great. That's such a beautiful thing.
I have I know we get totally sidetracked, and I have such an important question. I wonder if you had, read any studies or how you figured that out. We just naturally always have that voice talk in our head. And we're so used, it's about the ego voice, whatever you call the voice, the non-stopping voice, and then having that vacation in your mind where we have stillness.
Mm.
Did actually anybody think about it or study it where this voice is coming from? The Course in Miracles says it's a fearful thought. It's just a fearful thought. Did you ever figure that out? And when you do your guided meditations, are you talking to that voice to redirect it? Or
You
are
know,
you is that voice silently going away and you're talking to our essence?
yeah, I haven't dived into studies on this. However, um, from what I'm aware of, is that voice is like a lot of the subconscious programming and beliefs and chatter that we have taken on from our very younger years in life, and to the point where it begins then to run on autopilot constantly. And that's where, of course, when we do the meditation practice, that's when we become aware of that. But there's apparently like 60,000, 70,000 thoughts per
Mm,
day,
mhm,
um,
mhm,
just so that it's just constantly uh, this program that just keeps running and running and running. And they say that that programming begins prenatally, in the when we're in the womb. Like
mhm,
if the mother gets stressed, we take on that stress, the cortisol there, and then when we come out between the ages of 0 and 7 years old, we're just absorbing every fine little piece of information, and then it begins, and then we're not intelligent enough at that young age to discern from what is right and what is wrong and what is, we just take it all on and we kind of believe it all. And so
Mm.
it's a matter then of I guess we spend the rest of our life then trying our best to deprogram ourselves, or we continue to run on that autopilot, those thoughts that just are going to constantly come and go. I know that there've been studies done on how often we have those thoughts, and they say that at least minimum every 6 seconds,
Mm.
we can be silent, peaceful, and then bang, the thought will come in, or the thought will change. So every 6 seconds, they say that. Yeah,
That is so, yeah, just while you were talking, I had this, sometimes you do have this second of, like, it feels almost enlightenment and then it's popping away again. But I had this second of light while you were talking, and that we are programmed. So
mm,
literally, that noise in our head are a bunch of thoughts that are actually not our own, or that how we really are. That's, marketing,
exactly.
that's conditioning, that's academics, that's parenting, that's everything. And by the time we are older, it's a bunch of programs that has
Absolutely.
never been who we really are.
Absolutely. I mean, wouldn't it be fascinating if, and I'm sure they'll do this one day, where they could actually scribe all our thoughts in one day, and we would be,
Absolutely.
I reckon we would be absolutely shocked, because they say that 70-80% of them are negative
Yes.
thoughts.
Yes.
So that's
I
pretty
was on a spiritual
interesting.
path for a very long. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt
No,
you,
you're okay.
Jason. Please go on. I was on a spiritual path already for, many years, and I could really shine and I could really be in joy. And then, but literally after years, suddenly I recognized you have a very negative mind, Jeanine, that you are there. There is so much negativity. And I was shocked that being on a path for so long, I sometimes recognize it. And I remember there's a wonderful book out of Michael Singer, The Untethered Soul. If you haven't read it, Jason, it's so good for everybody who hasn't read it. It's The
Mm,
Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And it
mhm.
starts very funny. And the fun part in the beginning is he talks about if your voice would be your therapist, you would fire the therapist within a minute, because it's so true. And sometimes if you are in love with somebody, and you're not aware yet, or not so yet, or you just have every hopes, and then you look on your text message, he or she doesn't respond, and then suddenly your mind fuck starts. Sorry to say it also straight,
Yeah.
and you get all the cinema and what is happening. And then from he's being such sweetheart and great love, it becomes within minutes he's the greatest ass
Yes.
in the world. And then suddenly, bim, a text message come in after you really curse him, and in your mind he's already gone, and all the men are just nothing, or women are just,
Yep.
everybody is the same. And then suddenly it comes, hey sweetheart, I was so caught in a meeting, I just was thinking all the time of you. And then immediately the mind comes, oh, you're so sweet, it was like
Oh, it's crazy, isn't it? And it's so true. That is
yeah.
so true. Yes, how
And then
we do that. We that judgment, that we just keep judging out there, you know, and then
and
that,
it's so,
yeah.
yes. And it was so, and what's such a relief, and Eckhart Tolle does this really beautifully, and I always recommend him
Mm,
to listen to him. He does it really beautifully. Also, I learned over many years, and growing up in Germany, we are such a thinker country. Um, this fixing and analyzing of thoughts, you can just forget about it. I mean, it just takes years, and to run it, let it run by, and don't, and laugh about it. And I know that when I first went online again with my talk shows, there was this rush of shame and, ridicule and judgment and ego attack. And I
mm,
would be so small, and I would love to just delete everything and, just forget about it. And after a while, of course, it came back, and I was so bored. And I said, I'm just so bored with you. I just after a while it was a distance. I just yeah, come again, but I'm just bored. I'm literally bored by you. And it was a very liberating
I
experience.
really like that idea of just saying, yeah, okay, I'm bored of
Okay,
you.
you're again.
I'm over it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just have a cup of coffee. I just do something else. And
yeah.
Elizabeth Gilbert, sorry, I'm just to inspire me so much, but there are some really good people out there. And Elizabeth Gilbert said once, when she's creative, fear is always part in her car, but fear is, sitting now at the back seat or the
Uh,
side seat, and fear is never ever. And she said, "You are here, and I know that you chat, and I know that you talk, and I let you talk. You can sit there, but never ever touch the GPS. Never ever dare to take the wheel. This is my zone." And
wow.
I really love that, what she said. I really
Oh,
love that.
I love that too. Love that. What? Who said that?
Elizabeth Gilbert, in an interview of being out there as a creative person, that it always comes, creativity, she said, always comes with fear. And she said this in one of her interviews, and it's a striking interview. And I found this really good to say, fear, I know you're there. I know you give me your shame ride again, but
Yeah.
don't ever even dare to touch the wheel ever, ever again.
That's so good. I mean, that's come at a perfect time for me because I'm launching out, beginning to do talks and presentations, and I still have those fears, and that sometimes that comes up. Jason, who do you think you are, or you
Yes.
might be able to do this, Jason. This is too big a step, and but I need to keep just pushing that aside and just going, okay, yeah, I hear you, but I'm going forward. I like that idea. You can come forward. You can come with me in the car. You sit in the back seat.
And it's amazing. I mean, it really shows you are so accomplished. You have over 1 million subscribers with your music, all that you did. And now you launch your own music next year, have a new album, as far as I know. And
Yes.
then still you should go out with such, A, it makes you very human, and B, it's not about how much we have accomplished. I mean, it's really about the inside feeling and reconnecting again. And
Yes.
I love that honesty.
Yeah. I still feel like I'm a beginner. I really
Yeah,
do.
me too.
Do you?
Absolutely. People sometimes say when I do those little video stories or when I do my talks, gosh, Jeanine, such confidence. And no, no. After one of the talk shows, I had three friends, artist friends, and there it was again, but I was not that on top of it, but I felt that rush of shame again. And I felt so ashamed later. And there was absolutely no confidence at all. But it was really shifting from, don't you dare to be miserable and make my day miserable. I know you by now.
Yeah.
And I would just do it. And it is just doing. And I teach at the moment. I have a very large group in Netherlands, and we do personal growth with my ex-husband. And it's a lot about courage, a lot about talking truth. And they always want to have the magical formula how to be brave and how to talk truth. And I always say there is no formula, there is no MBA, guys. I
Yeah.
know business loves to have those PowerPoint presentations, but courage doesn't come with a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
Courage does come by stepping out of the box and by literally keeping on doing that. And not just, I'm so happy that you said it. I think just everybody should talk the truth, because so many people are out there and pretend or even think maybe that they have it all together. And then we're all struggling. We're all, we're getting up and we're getting down. And I think if everybody would just talk truth, we would
Mm.
feel so much more comfortable and connected
Yeah.
instead of pretending that it's not existing.
Yes. Wouldn't we? Wouldn't we ever? I mean, it's just so lovely to hear. That you battle
Oh,
sometimes.
yeah. Every time,
Kind of
every
comforting.
day.
It's comforting. It's really comforting just to hear that.
No, absolutely. Are you afraid when your album is coming out next year?
Uh, am I afraid? Sorry, or
Do you feel, fear, or do you feel
no,
comfortable when your album is coming out because you bring out your own music for the
Oh,
first
look,
time as a
I will
singer, I think?
I will admit I'm really looking forward to that, to bring out singing and music again. I really am looking forward to that. I am nervous about, though, um, presenting and talking in front of people uh, because I spent many, many years of my life singing, and I sang to thousands, thousands, and sometimes millions while I was on TV. But yet I always said, yes, I can sing, but I don't have much to say between songs. And so it's a belief. And so that has stayed with me, that, sometimes I think, I'm not a very good speaker. I can't speak. I can't find the right words to say. And so that's my part that I struggle with. Yeah, but
I
I'm
can so relate to it. And I mean, if you say this, I saw your feedbacks and references. And guys, please check out Jason Stephenson website. It is so good. What's your website address again?
at the moment, you can go to jasonstevenson.net.
Yes,
But the
right.
website is being revamped at the moment. But there,
But people can still see what other people said about you, isn't
yeah,
it? The audience
absolutely.
can still, and it's so beautiful, and it's so beautiful. My new support, angel support, I call her, who's on New Generation Women, Debbie Cook, because she was so struck by what you said, and she couldn't sleep at that time, and she would take your music, and it is amazing that you then would say, I sometimes feel I don't have to say anything between the songs, and
Mm,
yes, it's like when people ask me, it got better, but it still is there. What, and it's literally there, and nobody believes me that, but you will, and my partner knows because he sees this. It's really literally I mean it in
yeah.
my little mind. When I would leave a job or quit a job or quit because I felt this is not heart led, literally after a week, when people would ask me, "What are you doing professionally?" I couldn't tell them. It's just literally it's literally still the case sometimes, or I
Mm,
have nothing to say. I don't know. I can do Starbucks. I can go for it literally is the case, and I go totally blank. And fighting it or performing or writing 100 times down what I accomplished was not doing it
mm,
until I flipped around and say, I have a blank. I really literally do have a blank, and I completely accept that I do have a blank. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't even want to fight it. I make it very humorous.
yeah.
And when people then everybody is telling yes, I do this and this and
Yeah.
this. And when people ask me, I say, I still figure out what I'm doing. I'm still on a learning journey. And it's the case. Yeah, I literally go blank. And maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's then when the essence can come forward and I'm not covering it up with all the things that I think are so important to present to the world.
That's perfect. I'm going to remember that. I'm giving a talk actually to YouTube and Google this month in about
You
2 weeks.
are?
And
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
and so it's I'm nervous, but I'm going to go with that idea. I just want to, again, if I can just reach one person, if one person can get something
Yes.
from it, then that's enough.
There's a wonderful, Robert Holden said it, and he has this beautiful work. He is located in London. He's a psychologist, and his name is Dr. Robert Holden. And he just lately said, and maybe this is a wonderful piece to write on a post and take with you. I'd take it with me.
Mm.
He said, trust that the now is delivering. And I really like that the now is delivering.
Oh,
Trust
I
it.
love that.
Isn't that great? I really, I mean, unfortunately, it doesn't come from me. And in times I think sometimes, why
Robert
did I
Holt.
come up with this?
I really, really love that.
Isn't that great? And he would sometimes, I had done a few workshops with him, and he would say, trust the moment, don't prepare everything, go
Mm.
right in there and be present right with that. And Jason, it really helped me to go through a lot of work when I said, stop trying to figure it out. Trust that this moment is delivering. It
Oh,
really helped me to calm my mind.
thank you for sharing that. I really like that one. Yes, I really do. I'm going to write that one down and put it in my
Yes.
wallet.
For everybody, exactly. This is what I also did. I posted it right at my mirror. When I brush my teeth, I would look at it because I loved it so much.
Ah,
And you must know this. It's different when you're in a live situation, as if you're recording by yourself. But I
mm.
think you know the moment and the channel and the creativity that comes forward when you do your guided meditation. It
Yeah,
must be a rush of energy when you do this.
yeah. Well, actually, what can I just tell you quickly? When I
Yes,
was
no, please do.
I was speaking in Santa Barbara 2 years ago.
Oh, I love Santa Barbara.
Big, big
I
stage.
used to live there. Go ahead.
Oh wow, it's
Yes.
a beautiful place. It's glorious.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
so I was there for a conference, and there was big name people there. Like I was sharing the stage with some big name people, and I hadn't prepared much. I was to finish the conference off with a guided meditation. I'd done a smaller talk where I had prepared a lot, but this talk in front of 800 people and
Mm.
doing a meditation, I hadn't prepared. But just before I went on, I just said, I prayed, if you like, and I just said, look, God, please help me to get out of the way, I just want to surrender now and I want to give to the people. That's all I want. And as soon as I walked on that stage, it was like there was an absolute transformation. I let go and was free. And I felt like I was talking to these people in my own lounge room. It was
Mm.
and it was
Mm.
such a freedom. S- Um,
Mhm.
and I dragged up a stool and went through this guided meditation, which sometimes I made up as I was going because I felt the energy and was just called to speak. And it ended up being a much, much better presentation than the one that I actually prepared. So, so it was just
Yes.
surrendering to the universe, to our higher calling, and
Yes.
magic happens.
Yes, I can so relate to that. And I really want to encourage everybody. I sometimes, when my ex-husband and I work together, he wants that I literally prepare everything. And he has a right that I see what he has prepared. And I always want to tell him, look, let me just go in blank. That's when I'm the most creative in that moment.
Mm.
And to please him and to not make him completely upset, I would just give in then after a while and just prepare it. And then I said, no, even if he's so angry, I'm needing to go in blank because I'm way better. I'm so much more awake and aware of what's going to happen. If in my concept, if I'm in my preparations, I'm losing so much momentum of what is happening right now with the people in front of me. And I think this is what you also did with your meditation in Santa Barbara.
Yes. Yes, absolutely it was. I walked, I remember walking off that stage feeling like, wow, is that how it works? Like, it's just get out of the
Yes.
way, just get out of the way and it will work. So I'm really,
It is.
it's good to talk about this right now because this is actually helping. This is therapy for me right now.
Oh, good, 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 good. No, I'm so happy. I'm so happy, and it just I'm such a believer. We are all in the same boat, and I'm such a believer that in honesty we connect. And there's this beautiful sentence: "We just walk each other home." And listening to your story and listening, to the stories that I collect, this is what I hope that people just feel. Oh, I'm not the only one. Oh, we are all sharing, and I'm learning from
Mhm.
you right now, Jason. And next time I'm learning from this person. We are really literally just walking each other home, however home feels, wherever home is. But we know that we're going somewhere.
I like that. Yeah.
And it's not going to be, the accomplishment of the to-do list and going to God one day and said, "Oh, I really accomplished my to-do list today." And once a top manager said this when I did camera training with him, and asked him, "What are you really proud of?" And then he would say that I'm always managing my to-do list, and I would be very serious and looking into his eyes while the camera was running, and I would said, "Do you think when you go to God that He will say to you, even if you don't believe in God?" "Oh, I'm so proud of you that you did your to-do list." And I was very serious, and he got it. He really got it at that moment. He had to laugh. I said, "Okay, you come in there. You come in again. You have some extra homework. This is not done. This is really not done."
Oh, beautiful.
I know
Beautiful.
you have so much to do, and I literally have to let you go. If you promise, when your album is coming out, when is your album coming out exactly?
I hope it's out before March, because March I do begin my Australian tour. So I'm wanting him to take my album on the road with me to sell that album. So yeah, I'm hoping it'll be in March, end of March.
So may I nail you charmingly and gently that before it's coming out, that I can call, or right when it's coming out,
Yes.
when you're on your Australia tour, what we do an interview and then introduce your album?
Yes, let's do that.
Yes, is this
Yeah.
because I nail you and you have to say yes online?
Yes. No, I've said it now. So it's been a pleasure to talk with you. So yes, you can keep in contact with me, and definitely let's do that.
I would love that. I would really love that. This was Jason Stephenson, meditation expert from Australia. This was New Generation Women and Jeanine from Munich. Thank you so much to Debbie Cook, a true new gift, who is now on the team of New Generation Women and helps me with the editorial work. I'm so happy to have you, Debbie. Thank you so much for being in my life. And thank you to Michael Maria Kraus, who does the post-production mostly after he comes back tired from his own work. I really, truly honor you for that. And wherever you are in your audience, please feel free to leave your comments, thoughts, ideas, questions. Debbie and I will surely connect with you. Have a soulful rest of your day or upcoming night, and hopefully until soon again.